Welcome back to Math 103. This is video number 6 on voting. Last time we were looking at the following election under the board account method. The task was to find the winner and rank the candidates under the extended board account method, and then reflect, was there anything disturbing about the election result? First, let's just compute the winner. A receives 4 first choice votes, worth 3 points each, plus 17 second choice votes worth 2 points each, plus, once again, 0 last choice votes, 0 third choice votes, which would have been worth 1 point each. Okay, that's going to be a total of 12 plus 34 equals 46 points. B receives 6 times 3 from first choice votes, plus 4 second choice votes times 2 points each, plus 11 last choice votes times 1 point each. That's 18 plus 8 equals 26, plus 11 equals 37 points. And finally, C receives 11 first choice votes, plus, once again, 0 second choice votes, plus 10 third choice votes, worth 1 point each. Great, so that's 33 plus 10 equals 43 points. So we changed the preference table a little bit. A is still the overall winner, and the ranking under the extended board account is, once again, A, then C, then B. Okay, so this is the overall ranking of the candidates under extended board account. All right, now, is this disturbing? There's something at least a little bit worrisome. C, in this election, is a majority candidate. If anyone other than C wins this election, then it violates the majority criterion. Oh, that's very bad news indeed, because someone other than C did just win. Well, that'll give us a pretty straightforward answer to our next question. Does the board account method never violate, or sometimes violate, the majority criterion? So this is the same question as, if there is a majority candidate, is that candidate guaranteed to win under the board account? Or could a majority candidate sometimes lose under this voting method? Well, we just saw it in the example we just looked at. A won the election in spite of the fact that C is a majority candidate. Oh, that is bad news indeed. So according to the majority candidate, according to the majority criterion, is there a candidate who should win? Yes, it is C. Is there another candidate who does win? Yes, it is A under this method, the board account method. So that would seem to be rather bad news. The board account method sometimes violates the majority criterion. And this is where we scratch our heads and think, wait a minute, the board account method seems to make so much sense. There is so much rationale to it. In fact, it seems to make more sense as a voting method, certainly, than the plurality. After all, Borda is looking at all the information on every ballot, and the plurality method is throwing out most of the information. Nonetheless, the board account method can produce this kind of result. The conclusion is that in this election, the board account method violates the majority criterion, and as soon as we have witnessed one such election result, the overall conclusion is that the board account method sometimes violates the majority criterion. Now, why is this significant? Does it mean that we should not use the board account method at all? That conclusion does not follow. There are many good reasons for using the board account method, and the violations that do sometimes occur of the majority criterion are in fact quite rare. But it is true that once we have found one election in which the board account method elects the wrong candidate as the winner, we have reason to be nervous whenever holding an election using this voting method. Before you hold your election, if you are using the board account method, you don't know whether there will be a violation or not. That risk is always present. Another way to say it is that the board account method is vulnerable to producing unfair outcomes in the specific sense of declaring a majority candidate the loser of the election. So whenever you set up an election using the board account method, be forewarned that such an unfair outcome is possible. As we will see, there are other notions of fairness and unfairness, and the violation of the majority criterion is not the only issue in voting theory. Furthermore, let's be sure we understand the following caution. The statement that the board account method sometimes violates the majority criterion does not mean that if you use the board account method, you're going to see a violation every single time. These violations are, in practice, rare. In very many instances, a majority candidate will win the election under the board account method, just as we would expect. But the fact that it's possible at all for a majority candidate to lose an election when the board account method is used, the fact that the method has such a vulnerability at all is enough to conclude that the board account method sometimes violates the majority criterion. We now come to a new idea, that of a head-to-head competition. It is often useful to compare just two candidates to one another. Temporarily ignoring all the other candidates, we consider which of those two candidates is ranked higher on more ballots than the other candidate. This comparison is called a head-to-head competition. Of the two candidates, the candidate ranked higher on more of the ballots is the winner of that head-to-head competition. Okay. So in a head-to-head competition, which is also called a pairwise comparison, we imagine that all the other candidates, except for those two, have dropped out of the election, and we see which of those remaining two is the winner, which of those two candidates is preferred by a majority of voters. Here's an example, our favorite recurring example. So think, who wins the head-to-head competition between A and B? Let's reason this out. There are 10 ballots that have A higher than B. There are another 8 ballots on which B is higher than A, but then there are 3 more ballots on which A is higher than B. So A wins by what you could call a score of 13 to 8. There are 13 ballots on which A is ranked higher, but only 8 ballots on which B is ranked higher. So A wins the head-to-head competition between them. Before going on to the next video, answer the questions below. Who wins the head-to-head competition between A and C in this election? And who wins the head-to-head competition between B and C in this election?